It's daybreak here on Rise News, and it's time for the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages. We start with this day, our sister publication. 4 days to APC convention. Buni harmonizes subcommittees. Screening starts today for both the chairmanship position, and then of course tomorrow they'll be for zonal members of the committee. All right, it has 5 riders. A party inaugurates media committee. That was done by Sule, the governor of Nasarawa State yesterday. Sule, APC governors have resolved their differences. Uzodinma confident March 26 is sacrosanct. Senate has no consensus candidate, says spokesperson. Honorable Buni saved Akpanudo there after caretaker members threatened to stage a walkout. Just above that headline, defection again. Court sacks 2 reps, 18 Cross River Assembly members. The 18 members have, of course, as we read earlier, appealed that judgment. Imoke Hill's judgment, that's from our Cross River governor. State government appeals filed stay of execution. And, well, let's leave it here for now for this day. Let's go to other papers.
More defection headlines here on the Nigerian Tribune. Court sacks 20 Cross River lawmakers who have now appealed that. Some riders, court strikes out Umahi's motion to stop execution of judgment. PDP tells INEC issue certificate of return to Igwariwe Udogu now. APC convention protests over consensus candidate for national secretary. No position taken on chairmanship, says the Senate caucus. And if you're wondering what that photo is in front of the Nigerian Tribune, it's the visiting United States arts envoy Pauline Yang and the United States ambassador to Nigeria Mary Beth Leonard performing classical musical renditions during a concert at the Manhattan Hall in Ibadan, Oyo State. Above the nameplate of Nigerian Tribune, CBN retains NPR at 11.5%. And on page 22 of the Tribune this morning, bandits kill 23, burn 70 houses in 2 Kaduna local government areas.
The Nation newspaper, South PDP governors demand presidential ticket. We can't stop Atiku, Saraki and others, and that's according to the party. And the government cancels COVID-19 PCR test. Court sacks 20 Cross River lawmakers over defection. However, their counsel, Michael Zekome, has filed a motion for stay of execution. And Obiano's arrests, not political. That's according to the Anti-Grafts Commission, the EFCC.
All right, let's look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch, on its headline, says Al-Makura, Adamu, Yeri, others learn fate as aspirants screening holds today. With 2 riders, governors initiate last-minute move for consensus candidate. APC caucus hasn't endorsed any chairmanship aspirant that is coming from the Senate. And on the topmast, you have that bad feel. Marketers submit report on damages. Await FG's compensation. We'll leave it there to some other papers.
Let's move on to some international papers. 3 front headlines on the front page of Financial Times. Mall attack, Russia strikes Kiev suburbs. Another headline, Powell signals more aggressive tightening of U.S. monetary policy. And the last headline here, Everett says bond payments blocked over links to Abramovich sanctions.
The Independent, Nazanian, I should have been back 6 years ago. That's Gary Ratcliffe. She's condemned the UK government over delayed release. Russia obliterates Kiev shopping center.
Oh, the most important thing is that she's back anyway. The Times. Let's look at the Times. Putin threatens civilians to break Mariupol's spirit, which is very unfortunate, threatening civilians to break Mariupol's spirit. All right, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello, if he is around with us. Emmanuel, good morning to you. A wonderful Tuesday morning. Yes, Emmanuel is there. All right. This issue, you know, it's coming up for the umpteenth time. The question of carpet crossing by politically exposed persons. Now the court says 20 Cross River lawmakers have been sacked. No word on the governor. So what's your sense? And the court has stopped, says Umahi, your no execution appeal is not holding sway. And of course, the PDP has said INEC swear in their own people. Where do we go from here? Is it possible we can get a legislation that will, set things straight so we know nobody decamps, or if you decamp, what happens?
Yeah, well, good morning. I think that will help greatly, because it's something that you see happening again and again. Politicians have as soon as they have any form of differences or crisis within their party, they defect. So yes, some form of legislation that will stop all this court meddling. Already there are people who say that the court is already doing a lot in meddling into what has happened in the political space, especially after elections. The vice president recently even called that, look, courts should reduce their presence in Scotland people's mandate. But then you can't blame the courts, because they'll have to deal with the cases that's brought before them. And so if an aggrieved party felt that, look, you use our platform to get into office, this is the platform you use, this is where you got everything that you ever wanted to have in politics, and then for whatever reason you decamp. There's actually a law that states that if there's a division in your party, or there's a crack within your party, you could defect. But you will see people defecting for all sorts of flimsy reasons and flimsy excuses. And so the aggrieved parties go to court and say it's dishonest to use our platform, win elections, and then you just defect. And some of this defection can be really painful to the party, especially the party that's produced the candidates for the office. So they go to court, and then you get this kind of judgments. And the Umahi case, was very extraordinary and very spectacular and dramatic too. They are still in court battling to stop that, but PDP is already in a hurry to say, look, just swear in our man. Because the argument continuously is, are these votes for the individual or for the party? So this has to be very well clearly stated. So where the courts are able to establish that, I think is going to be a precedence going forward, that look, if you're going to lose the position, if you're going to ditch the party, you might as well ditch the votes.
Well said, Emmanuel. Now, this day newspaper and The Punch are leading with the APC chairmanship struggle or quabble, or whatever you might want to call it. It's 4 days to the APC convention, which will be happening on Saturday, March 26th. Punch newspaper says Al Makura, Adamu, and Yari and others will lend their faith today as the screening starts later today. What more can we expect from that?
Well, it doesn't seem as if there's any a consensus candidate. Probably we emerge. It's like they're just going to go to this convention to really slug it out, because nobody is backing out. You have those, even the APC, the APC caucus in the Senate saying, well, look, we've not endorsed anyone yet for these positions for the national chairman. So, and then you have all these people ready. Yari not even minding the zoning formula, still insisting that he will run. I think there's a story that some other people have dropped out, but now we still have over 5 strong contestants running for the position. So the screening probably we help, and it will be dramatic to know who gets screened out of the process. Whether that will whittle down the number, reduce it to some minimum basis, or even some form of brokerage before the day it's over, some understanding, so that a consensus candidate will appear. But what is certain and what is being reported is that the date 26th March is sacrosanct. Buni seems to be back on the saddle, taking charge, harmonizing those subcommittees, and getting ready, really gearing up for the biggest party of the year, the APC convention, and then so that is I think from today it seems as if we must stay on this story to look at all that is happening, especially the background stories. Who is talking to who? What compromises are being made? What's happening behind the closed doors? And as we head towards the all-purpose convention on the 26th, it's going to be drama all the way. And for now, the parties seem to be very sure that nothing is stopping it from having that convention.
Emmanuel, many people throwing in their hats into the ring. The Nation newspaper says South-South PDP governors demand presidential ticket. Obaseki, the South-South Edo State governor, was absent at that meeting. And the party says we cannot stop Atiku, Saraki and others. Now this comes as the former Senate President, Abubakar Bukola Saraki, is saying that he will fight twice as hard. Some young people have purchased his presidential form from the People's Democratic Party. And he says when he becomes president on the 29th of May, these are his words, "When I become president on the 29th of May 2023, all the ministers of my state, ministers of state in my cabinet will be experienced young people who are under the age of 35. The former Senate President has a vision. Perhaps we can't see it. Can you see it?
Well, it's possible. I mean, youth energy is driving the world, whether it's in tech companies, whether it's even in political cycles. You have very young examples of very, very young people taking over the process. So yes, the Saraki promise is not something that is beyond achieving. There are people that will tell you that performance is not about age after all. We've seen very, very young people. Even right now, we have very young people in government, governance and the rest. How have they performed? As the age factor really played very well for them. But it's a good thing anytime anyone is talking about using youth energy, using younger people to run things. Young people are doing a whole lot of performing miracles in various fields. They might just perform miracles even in the field of politics. But the bigger story there is that the South-South is still insisting that, look, power shifts must happen. And it's a very long debate and a very, one that is very tortuous, especially in the kind of submissions that everyone is making. But South-South governors yesterday still insisting that, look, it's not just enough to zone power or just talk about gaining power, but actually zoning it to the South. And now South-South even saying zoning it not just to the South, but to the South-Side. Just as Atiku too keeps saying that, look, zone this power to not just the North, but even to himself as a person. So it's an ongoing debate, and it's going to be, a lot of sides dwelling on the matter, talking about their position. Even a third force that is saying that, look, it's not about zoning this to anywhere, but zoning it to the right people, zoning it to competence, zoning it to serious people that will be able to deal with the serious problems we have, and that zoning just limits all of that, because if you zone power to a place, that is it. You just zone it to a particular place. So you can, anybody, an idiot, can just come and say power has been zoned to my place, and so he gains it. But there are people who say leave this thing open to practically the market forces of politics, which is getting the best hands in the business. But there are people who have argued that no, not in politics, not in the kind of society that we live in. You have to have a deliberate system that makes power equitable, that allows people who don't have an undue advantage to actually have to be able to occupy the presidency. And people will argue too that you have competencies everywhere, so you can't say, look, let's just open it to competence or to capacity, but that is what you find everywhere in every zone. So in any zone that you zone the power to, someone there is probably capable to do the job. So those are the kind of arguments going on and the back and forth. I'm sure by tomorrow we hear more voices saying that the South-South shouldn't be making those calls. The party itself, the PDP, is saying that it seems to be suggesting that, look, we might allow this thing open to everyone. We're in opposition. We do not have the luxury of saying that we're zoning anything anywhere. I've heard from some big party stakeholders who are saying that a party in opposition does not really have, the wherewithal to determine all of that, to say it's zoning, and that they cannot be stampeded by the ruling party. So we'll see how these arguments play out in the coming days.
Well, as somebody said, you don't sell what you have, you sell to the people what they need. Saraki there trying to sell to the young men. But my days on Newsday, I was asking one of those young lads, can you muster the power of the youth and go and vote your candidate? I mean, that's the question, whether the youths vote or just go on the pages of Facebook and write all sorts. I don't know whether we'll have the time, but Putin's super yacht faces seizure. That is coming in Italy. It's a 300-pound craft docked in Italy. It's the talks that it has Russia's security people there. What's your sense of how this can affect what is happening between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, I guess a whole lot of things are going on to see whether there can be some kind of closure to this crisis, the Russian-Ukraine crisis, and this development certainly will play a central role in determining how this works. But generally, I think everybody just want to see what can happen. A whole lot of stakeholders in the international diplomatic world coming together to determine or to talk about this crisis increasingly as the rest of us watch in horror what is happening, the attack on civilians, and the other stories coming out of, very, very terrible story coming out of Ukraine, and of course the undying spirit of the Ukrainian people still holding on strongly. Symbolic of the bravery that you can talk about in circumstances like this. But beyond that, many people trying to see whether there can be some form of political solutions to the Russian-Ukraine crisis, whether there will be room for any diplomatic solution to the crisis. So this development too must be factored into all that is going on in this crisis.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello, for joining us on the press preview.